Happy Friday, everyone. Welcome into the final edition of the work week, that is, Betting Weekly Fast Break. I am Doug Kezirian alongside professional handicapper Albert Nguyen on this Friday. A lot of stuff to unpack with the NBA Summer League going on up in Vegas, alive and well, and then also the WNBA always heating up and more drama off the court as, any day that ends in Y, that happens in the W. Albert, how are you, my man?
I'm doing well, man. Happy Friday to you and yours. And it was a great opening night, Las Vegas Summer League. I'm excited for day number 2 today.
Bronny, we almost forgot about him, right? He wasn't going to play at first, and then he did. And just coincidence, right? Just coincidence that opening night marquee game, Big Jim. It's Bronny versus Cooper Flag. It's almost like schedule makers had that in mind when they did this. But really good atmosphere in Las Vegas. Just a reminder, a week ago or so, week and a half ago, we reached the 10,000 subscriber mark for Bet Rivers Network and Betting Weekly umbrella. Just want to keep it going. So please like and subscribe. That is the currency and rite of passage in the YouTube world. So we appreciate everyone's effort as we have free content here. So that's always very helpful to us. But, sort of underwhelming, right, Albert, with the, 5 of 21 for Cooper Flag. Bronny had some nice defense after starting out with a 2-pointer and a 3-pointer, electric crowd, and then he misses a shot that he didn't need to shoot a 3, step back too far. So both are going to be busts, right? The rest of their NBA careers. That's a given, right?
No, it was great to see. Obviously, as Cooper's first, professional game, if you will, even though it's Summer League. But from a shooting standpoint, he would be the first to admit that he was disappointing. He took a lot of shots. 21 is a lot for any rookie for any game. But I would say, as a Mavericks fan, Doug, I was excited to see his competitiveness, the way he was playing defense. And then I think his handle was a lot better than I expected. You saw the Lakers defense kind of blitz him a couple times and double him, and he was able to get out of it pretty easy. So I think he'll shoot better, obviously, as the games go on, and who knows how many games he's going to ultimately play in Las Vegas. But the scoring and the offense is not something I would be worried about anyways.
I was looking into it because I think it's a fun discussion. As sports fans, we like to take something and take it a step further and not just like, ooh, who's got more to prove or whatever. But what percentage would you put that Cooper Flag is not the best player in this draft? So it'd be Cooper versus the field. What percentage would you put? Not rookie of the year next year, just overall. Because look, we've had some drafts where the number one pick wasn't so good, like Ben Simmons, Markelle Fultz. Even quote unquote no-brainer number one picks. And then DeAndre Ayton, right? He's on his third team. Now he wasn't the no-brainer, but he was kind of the no-brainer that year. So not like Flag, not like a guy who's done well with Team USA and things like that. Not like a minus money. I don't think we've had minus money rookie of the year since Durant, if I remember correctly, 2007-8 season after being drafted second overall. What do you think is the percentage? Like 20% that he doesn't?
Yeah, that's an interesting way to frame that question. I mean, because you have to kind of think about it, backwards, if you will. I would
Right,
say
right,
I would say he's overwhelmingly already, even after just what
right.
30 minutes of
Good point.
watching him play. I think he's overwhelmingly the best player in this class, both on offense and defense. I mean, people don't realize, like, it's not just scoring with Cooper Flag, right? There's a lot of comps out there with Paul George, a Kawhi on defense, or even Scottie Pippen. But he does do a lot, and I think his versatility is going to raise his floor so high that maybe we won't know how good he will be until 5, 7, even 9 years from now, right? So I think for him to go into a situation like Dallas, where there's a ton of veterans around him, there's Hall of Famers around him, he's just going to be able to work on his game. And I think we're not going to see the true, I guess, production and the numbers, but I think his overall impact to what winning is, I think it's going to be great. And I think it's going to be hard to quantify how he's not the best player at that point.
I mean, eventually, look, Edgecombe's got sick athleticism. You don't know. We've had some best players. The reason I say that is because forecasting guys this age is really tough. He's 18 years old, and we have a lot of data on him, right? There's other guys we don't have any data, especially with the Euro influence. But I'll say this, even after, so I'm going to almost throw away last year because it was such a wide open draft. although it looked like Alex R was the consensus, and then Ricochet as well. Before that, I think 5 straight years, the number one team's got it right. It's one thing to take Wemby, right? That was kind of a no-brainer, but I thought Banchero, it's pretty impressive that Orlando took him, and he's clearly better than Jabari Smith and Chet Holmgren. And then the other one, Ant Edwards, like when he was coming out, remember, he did not go to the tournament. His athleticism was good, but James Weissman was right there, I believe, at number 2. So the fact that those 2 teams and then the other 3, so we've had 5 straight years where they've got the number 1 pick right. And I think it's fair to say. Now, maybe Halliburton has something to say with that. I think it was the 10th or 11th pick one of those years with one of the guys. But for the most part, it's the last 5 years prior to last year. So and then before that was the Simmons, Fultz, all that, and Ayton. So maybe the league has just gotten a lot better with this. And Flag has always been a no-brainer since a year ago, or whenever we started hearing his name first. But maybe one of these other guys is like another Giannis who went 13th or 14th, right? You never know. A Sengay or someone like that just shoots up the board. So it's interesting to look back, but I like it when people are, a league is getting smarter and people are getting better at this. That's always interesting to me. So, I was on the show last time you and I were on the show, Albert. I took a hit with the at Utah minus 1.5, or sorry, Memphis minus 1.5, and they ended up sitting everyone. And they almost came back and won the game, but they closed as a 2.5-point dog. Philly wins by 1. So there's just an adjustment. So I was really gun shy yesterday's card. It's really hard. Even when Cooper Flag's clearly the best player, he goes 5 of 21 shooting. I liked Bronny's D, and it's just really hard. But there's always going to be opportunity, and there's opportunity in the summer league. But you got to be really careful. It's a different animal. It's like preseason in the NFL.
Yeah, I don't know if you caught the show yesterday, but Sarah and I were talking about how it's okay to have action in summer league, but definitely lower decrease the amount of money you're betting, right? Lower your units. And the one thing that I've done, and I did it, last night, that was pretty successful, was I identify, the games that I do want action or potentially want action in, Doug, but I didn't make those bets pre-flop. So I told Sarah, if I can get the better number, if I like this team and I could get the better number at halftime, that's when I would fire in. So then, I identified four games yesterday, or 4 teams to kind of back that I would be back in the regular season, but I'm not touching because summer league. But I'm still going to monitor and see what the number is at halftime. And so I was able to fire in 3 of those games, and it ended up being 2-1. So I can't complain. I'm going to do the same thing today, Doug. There are 2 games that I'm kind of focused on right now. Let me just confirm here. Pistons -2 pre-flop and the Wizards -7.5 pre-flop. Again, I'm not going to touch these games touch these bets before the games. But at halftime, if they're down by 1 or up by 1, or it's a very close game and I could get a shorter number, a smaller number, I think that's those are 2 teams that I've kind of penciled in.
Okay, so let's flush this out. You're saying you like your pre-flop handicap, but you want to see how things go. Well, what if you never get the number you would have had pre-flop?
You don't touch it.
Are you okay with that? Because you get more data points. So then if you're getting the better number, is there something that may be happening that you're just a little like, well, I liked them and then I'm getting a better number, but now I'm seeing this, so no play.
Yeah, so there's definitely nuance. So great follow-up question there. When a team is, let's say 7.5, let's say it's the Wizards and they're 7.5-point favorites right now heading into the game, and they go down by 20, I'm not going to touch that, right? Obviously, the better number there is available. I'll get them at plus money, or plus the point spread, but I'm not going to touch that because that's a blowout. Let's say they do the blowing out. Let's say they're up 20. I'm not going to touch that. Obviously, I won't be getting the better number. I think the caveat is within the parameters of it being a close game. There's no major injuries, right? There's no one team going off, 10 for 12 on threes, nothing like that. Everything is still kind of by the book. And if those all boxes check out, then potentially I would still fire. Like yesterday, I identified 4 teams, but I only bet on 3 of them at halftime. So again, I'm not going to do all of them.
Okay, and it's always important, I think, like preseason NFL, is just to follow the beat writers, man. They are locked in, and because there's no method to the madness. There's no rhyme or reason why some guys might sit. Usually, like Flag might play one game and then half the next, or he might skip the second game but play the third game. these are sort of common approaches, but it's a mixed bag. You got to be really careful with what teams. Some guys have like a nagging thumb injury. I think Edgecombe had that the other day. So these are things to keep in mind. Follow the beat writers. I like the advice of pulling back a little bit on units. That's always smart when it's the unknown, but you can make a case. It's usually correlated, right? So if a sports book doesn't have huge limits, that means it's not the tightest market. So you could get them when they're very vulnerable, but it's a soft market because it's very erratic. So you just got to be careful. But look, bad beats happen everywhere. Gross picks happen everywhere. I mean, you can lay 6, lose by 50, and that's not just a preseason thing. So, or summer league thing. So just, try to keep a level head. But unless you are really operating on good information, and I mentioned the Memphis Philly game the other night from Wednesday. Look, Memphis was 1.5, closed plus 2.5. So they were minus 1.5 and closed plus 2.5, and it lands Philly 1, right? So if you're tracking things, tracking X, tracking social media, things like that, and you catch a book soft on the move, I mean, you can really get line value. Now, Philly was up a bunch and should have won by like 10, but nonetheless, that didn't happen. So you mentioned the Wizards at Bet Rivers. They're now down to 6.5, and you're still eyeing that. Why such a big spread when it's rare to see a line this high?
It is rare to see a line that high, but if you look at and again, it's summer league, so this is a lot of conjecture, a lot of projection. But if you look at their roster, Doug, they have a lot of talent on there. There's second, third year NBA guys that have made true, real contributions in the big team, and so the fact that they're bringing those guys over in addition to the rookies that they have is interesting to me. Definitely a team that perked my ears. And so Washington was something, but if it's moved down to 6.5, it's probably a no play for me. I think there's reasons. And I think, for the most part, you shouldn't chase steam. You shouldn't chase line movement. But I would say there is a little bit of inside information when it comes to summer league. And if something gets tipped off and it moves last second like that, I think it does mean something is happening. So that's my long-winded way of saying, like, Wizards probably not a play anymore. I think 7.5. I like them because of the experience that they brought in, and also like the amount of talent they have top to bottom in the roster. I think the Suns are a franchise that are in dire need of talent, right? They had no draft picks. They basically don't have draft picks for half a decade, which is going to hurt your pipeline, which is the summer league. And so they're filling that summer league team with a bunch of, fringe players that potentially are two-way players that could be G League players. Not that they're a bad team, but from a talent perspective, I think the Wizards are just way better right now.
Yeah, Suns are in dire situation, and you're right. You have to be price sensitive. And of course, you yesterday had Kings minus 2.5, win by 3. So everything matters in all betting. So price sensitivity is the most important sort of aspect. So you got to trust the market. And I like what you said. You don't have to chase steam, but that doesn't mean you don't ignore steam either. And you can embrace it or extract information from it in other ways. And one way is just to pause for a second. It is a big summer league number. Now we've seen some. Remember when I think it was the China under 18 team or something was playing? They lost by like 45 in some summer league games and things like that a few years ago. So sometimes there are blowouts, but it's not very often. And there are comebacks and things like that. And remember, coaches prioritize winning usually, but they're also prioritizing getting some run, seeing some lineup combinations, maybe seeing a guy like, I don't know, Cooper Flagg run the point. Maybe that has utility to a coach and something worth trying this time of year. So these are all things that may hurt a 15-point lead, things along those lines. So it's a different animal. We have, in baseball blowouts, we have a position pitcher pitch in the ninth sometimes, and that's going to affect the live market. So there's always going to be extenuating circumstances, but just things to keep in mind. Obviously, NBA is not the only sport going on. We have tennis, Wimbledon, final weekend released this morning. Betting Weekly WTA, Nigel and Rory Jawani previewing Saturday. So that's tomorrow's women's Wimbledon final. Swiatek against Anna Isamova. Probably butchering that. Also released today, Betting Weekly Fight Life with Kyle Andrew and Paul Hughes. You got a UFC Fight Night card in Nashville. So it's at Bridgestone Arena. So it's a big arena, even though it's a fight night. Should be a good card. We have a heavyweight bout as the main event. So good content elsewhere on the Bet Rivers Network. So you mentioned the Wizards caught your eye, Albert. Any other games, maybe with a shorter spread?
Yeah, I'm looking at the Pistons right now. I believe they're 2.5, if I'm not mistaken, on Bet Rivers. Oh, 1.5 now. Okay, so both games have moved against me. I still like the Pistons, to be honest. I think we saw it last year how they've improved so much as a team, and I think not only the big team, but I think their G League team actually played really well last season as well. So this is a system, if you will, in Detroit that they're building, and I think they're building something that can make long-term effects and that for the positive. So I like this Detroit team. I don't know much about the players on New York, to be honest. I just know that they also are out of first round picks because of all their moves that they've made in recent years, and so that does hurt their talent pool, if you will. I just think Detroit, it's a team that no one's really focused on, and I think they're trying to build the right habits in Summer League and G League and up to the big team. So give me the Pistons at -1.5, even though normally I don't like short favorites like that, but I'm pretty confident on Detroit tonight.
I like it. And I should have mentioned this when you had the Wizards. Usually the teams with the worst NBA roster have the best summer league because those NBA guys actually have to play summer league. So I think it's an interesting showdown when you like the Wizards, and then you get to some of these NBA teams. So you're going to overlook the steam and take the Pistons. I'm going to go back to the well, and this game's top of the hour. I believe it's top of the hour. Yeah. So I like the Grizzlies here. This line's come down. It was maybe as high as 5.5. So some players in and out, but it's 4.5 now. I still think their roster is just so much better. And we saw them almost get there playing shorthanded. Celtics roster is not that good. The NBA guys, quote unquote, that they have playing are Jordan Walsh. Shireman's probably their best player. But guys that I never thought were like that impressive when they had their moments in the NBA with Boston. So not that overwhelmed, but I think this Memphis team is solid. And if certain guys are playing, then I think they're going to be. We got blowout potential.
It's also a team. Yeah, I mentioned this with the Lakers and Mavs. It didn't work out for the Lakers, but Memphis has already been playing, right? They're game tested for the last week, and so theoretically they should be coming into this game tonight, or I guess in the next 30 minutes or so, a lot more prepared, not only from a mental standpoint, but especially physically. I think that's one of the things that caught my eye yesterday that I don't really think about, because I watched basically almost all 6 games yesterday. It was like NBA Christmas for me. But
yeah,
these guys, these kids and young guys are like sprinting. They're going at 100% effort, and you don't even see that in the NBA, because these guys are literally fighting for a paycheck next week. And so I think fatigue and stamina and all that is really important. So I really do think Memphis should be a lot more physically prepared to, especially in that first half. So Lakers were able to kind of just they got hit in the mouth in the first quarter, for example, yesterday. But as the first half went along, they actually took over the game. And I think we're going to see that with Memphis. I think they're going to be a lot more in shape, a lot more fit, and they're going to be ready to play against Boston.
That's also mentally prepared, right?
Yeah.
The jitters, all that kind of stuff. So again, Hugo Gonzalez could go off for Celtics, and it is what it is. But Gigi Jackson and some other studs played 2 of the 3 games in, was it Salt Lake City? Jalen Wells, Cam Spencer. So if we can get them to run, and I think that's why the line's high, is that we're expected to play. So 5.5 down to 4.5. I know, but that could just be sharp money taking a lot of points in a game that, for all we know, it's coin flip. So I'll make my only official place Grizzlies 4.5. Do you have anything else you want to touch on before we switch to the W?
No, not in the summer league. I would say day 2 is going to be much different today, just because day 1 yesterday was such a zoo, right? With Cooper Flag and ticket prices up into $200 to $300 for just to get in the building. I'd say it's going to be a lot more calm today, and I would say with that in mind, players are not going to have that deer in the headlights moment that we saw a ton yesterday.
Yeah, no, that's a good point. And like you mentioned and alluded to, the live wagering is always an option. sniff it out, see what you think. But again, like anything, it can be a little tricky. Okay, let's pivot to the W. Or I guess we should say we might see some free agency moves at all. Anything in the NBA that caught your eye in terms of the future? I think we've kind of exhausted it, but we might see some more dominoes to fall. Kaminga, we don't really know what's going on there.
Nothing super notable. I mean, OKC locking up their big three for basically $900 million,
Right.
which is it's a big number, right? But they had to do what they had to do. And then Devin Booker getting another 2-year extension for basically 150. How do you feel about Devin Booker? Can you build a winning franchise around him?
Yeah, I don't know if the Suns can though, with all the salary cap potholes they have, and clearly Booker's, he doesn't mind his life in Phoenix. Let's call it that.
Yeah.
He's dating celebs, making now 75 million. Maybe he's not aching to get out of there and go chase rings. It sounds like he wants to build it, but I really like his game. I really do. I just think he's the number 2 player on a championship team, not a number 1.
Yeah.
He's more Kyrie, that sort of echelon. I just don't think he's a number 1, although I love his game. So nothing against him. Maybe he's like a 1A, 1B, sort of like a Jaylen Brown kind of Jason Tatum situation. Okay, we go to the W. We got the Ion doubleheader tonight. Fever in action. They move the needle. We know that. They're interesting. We're 1.5 point overnight home favorites, now down to 1 with the Atlanta Dream in town. 167.5 is your over-under. It's pretty high for a team that had sort of redefined itself as a defensive-minded team. And there's hoopla or whatever with Caitlin Clark not on the cover of the video game, the NBA 2K for W version, which I'm totally fine with. Right now, this is more about the Fever making the playoffs, and it's not looking pretty. They are, I think, outside looking in, or they're right on the cusp. They're under 500. They lost the first game back for Caitlin Clark. She was played a minutes count. We talked about her points prop. She went way under 17.5. And now the Fever are 1-point home favorites to a Dream team that I believe just constantly goes over every time they play on the road. So that's something I have in the back of my mind, especially when I don't think the Fever defense we saw in the Commissioner's Cup has been carrying over.
Yeah, I mean, when I look at this game, Doug, like it's a potential buy low spot for Indiana. We know Indiana is not as bad as they've been without Caitlin Clark. Even when Caitlin Clark came back right against Golden State a couple of nights ago, it was just I mentioned it, it's a tough team to have as your first game back. Like they are an elite defensive team. But I don't know. I don't know if I believe in this team. Like I have to see Caitlin Clark be at the peak of her powers. Like I have to see her be that triple double threat before I can back this team. Like she has to be that good for Indiana to compete. And the Dream, as you know, like they're an underrated team. Yeah, they are better at home. Atlanta has a great home court advantage, but they're 12-7 on the year. They've been playing really good basketball. They have great size, so you're not going to out rebound them. You're not going to be able to pummel them in the post, things like that. But I don't know, man. My heart says it's Atlanta, but I don't know. I have this sense that it's a buy low spot for Indiana. I'm just gonna lay off of it. But I did want to say it's an interesting, part of the season for Atlanta, Doug. This is the start of I think a 4 or 5 game road trip that's really hard. It's Indiana, New York, Chicago, and Vegas. I think they're on the road for another game after that. So, 4 marquee cities, 4 marquee teams. And so not saying they're going to look ahead or not be focused against a Caitlin Clark team, because that's the Super Bowl for every single team in the WNBA. But I think they're going to be strategic around how to approach these games, because sitting at 12-7, I know it's early to talk about playoff positioning, but you don't want to go 0-4, right? You don't want to go 0-4 on a road trip. So I think they're going to be smart about which games they're going to really go for. And it could be tonight. It could not be. I don't know.
So your betting experience says buy low spot for Indiana, but your eyes tell you like, hey, this is a work in progress. And I agree. Stephanie White really doesn't know what she's doing yet with her starting lineup, because she's had so much in and out with Caitlin Clark. So she started Ari McDonald and put Lexi Holt to the bench. My gut tells me that she's going to start Hull instead of McDonald. As much as she wants Caitlin Clark off the ball at times, you got to run your offense through her. And I think Clark was a little out of it And McDonald's not nearly as good playing off the ball. She's not a spot up knockdown shooter like maybe Lexi Hull is, and she doesn't do much in terms of like offensive rebounding on the weak side. So I think McDonald has to play backup point guard, and then maybe Colson and her can do some sort of shared thing to begin the second. But I have a feeling White's going to change her lineup, go back to running everything through Caitlin. Let's stop babying her. Either she's back and playing, or she's still not back.
Exactly.
This whole 5-minute, 4-minute burst thing, it was nonsense. So I got in, got out with the under 17.5 points the other day. I'm not interested in that. I would look to the over. I really would. Atlanta wants to push. They're analytically driven. 168 right now at Bet Rivers, 167.5. It's been going back and forth. So over feels like the only play I would consider in this game. But again, as much as I'm discrediting the Fever's defense, like they did play really well defensively in the Commissioner's Cup in the next couple games. That was what, against the Aces, and the Aces are tragic right now. So it's over or pass, but it's a pass for me right now. But coming off a 19-point loss at home to Golden State might be a good bet on spot with the Fever. But I should say this was overnight, was 2.5. It's down to 1. Game 2 of the Ion doubleheader tonight. Really interesting handicap. The Storm are huge favorites at home, minus 18, over under 157. Coincidentally, they just played the Connecticut Sun in Connecticut to end their road trip, and they were about 17-point road favorites and lost outright thanks to a 27-9 run in the entire fourth quarter for the Connecticut Sun to win by 10. So they snapped a 10-game skid. We've been picking on them, but we talked about it the other day. They've started to look good. You liked the plus points. I thought you could get a better number in game, and they were down 9 after 1. So clearly that was the case. But the Sun were ready to kind of break the dam, and the Storm were off massive wins. Buzzer beater, essentially win in Atlanta, go to the Liberty, win outright as 5-point dogs. This was just a go through the motions game for Seattle, and it bit them in the fourth quarter.
Yeah, I actually posted on my X that I felt the Sun money line was a play. They were plus 1,200. I wish I put more money on there. It would have been really nice, but not. Let's give the Sun a little credit there. So you're absolutely correct. Seattle went through a gamut of games where they won some lucky breaks at the end, and they played really well against the Liberty. But the Sun in that second half just played really good. They were making shots, and if you can hold Seattle to 9 points in a quarter, that's really good defense. Plus, some really bad misses on Seattle's part as well. The cap for me here, I actually think the Sun might keep it competitive again. To be honest, I don't think that the Storm's just going to go out and say, "Oh, we lost to this team, so let's blow them out by 30." Like they have that capability, but they just don't show it every single game. I do think that the cap here for me is the Storm's offense. So you mentioned that fourth quarter was 27-9. They were on an over 100-point pace, right? They ended up scoring 83 points anyways. Before that, they scored 97 against the same team just 2 weeks prior. So I think their offense is going to be able to get any shot they want against Connecticut. And I like the Seattle Storm team total over. I believe it's 87.5 right now at Bet Rivers. And I like it a lot. That's definitely going to be an official play for me. And it's a full unit bet.
Okay, so your rationale is I don't want to lay the 17 or 18, but if they're going to cover that, they got to score. And the Sun offense has been picked up. And that's the thing. When teams go through a shocking roster change like Marina Mabry missing time, it's going to take time to adjust, but they're well coached. These players are trying hard. They're trying for contracts and all that stuff. And some of the rookies like Morrow and things are getting better. I love Sanaya Rivers. I think she's got off the charts athleticism. Tina Charles is still a bucket late in her career, even against Maglador and NECA. So I think the Sun can kind of hang around. So I do like that angle. If you like the favorite, and I think I've heard professional bettors say this for years, the best thing to bet on in all of sports is a focused favorite. And if you can get a focused favorite, the flat spot thing is just never part of the equation. Now, the point spread is the great equalizer. I do lean to the dog here. 18 is just too big of a number, especially in these garbage fourth quarters that you and I have alluded to. But I'm going to bet the Sun first quarter. Usually, Old Doug has taken one on the chin many times, thinking what you were saying. Yeah, there's a narrative. The good team's all mad. They're going to come out fire. They're not. They don't come out. Usually, there's a carryover through the first quarter. So I like Sun first quarter to hang around. +6, -124 is the juice at Bet Rivers. I think that's the right. I think eventually the Storm pull away. We just saw a line move to 18.5. So there's a little market move here. I like your team total angle. I think that's the right way to go if you like the favorite. Now I'm even thinking about team total on the dog. Like, yeah, it's a lot of points, but they're going to have to score. So maybe that's the right angle, so to speak. So team total for them is just 68.5. That's really low.
Yep.
And, they scored a lot the other day. I'm going to come back to this, but I do like the first quarter +6. I think that's just an old, betting tool I've learned that when these situations happen, it's 5.5 or 6 at Bet Rivers. You got to pay extra juice for the 6, but -124. So the key is it's just over time when you have these home and home situations. Yes, the Sun are going to be off emotional high, but they're also going to play with confidence. And they also just played this team, so they kind of know how to scheme against them. And I really like the Sun coach. So I think 6 is just too many points at -124. So I'll make that an official play. So that's a fun little 1-2 combo tonight. We also have games over the weekend, and Lynx visiting the Sky. Minnesota, a double-digit favorite in Chicago. Now, these two teams played last Sunday, and it was a really good spot because the Sky had not played in a week. And then Minnesota was playing its 5th game in 8 days, and they were flat. They were like barely hanging on, but I think the Sky are also playing a lot better of late.
Agreed.
And then Angel Reese with some hoopla yesterday that she did not create. Of all people, a former Heisman Trophy winner did. And she's been playing better. And she was upset last Sunday at the foul calls. And guess what happened the next game after her post-game comments on the podium? 12 of 15 from the line, career high in attempts and makes. And the next game only like 3 of 5. So I was ready. I was keeping an eye on if she had more free throws. I was going to sort of bet her points prop over just because I thought she'd be getting to the line and things like that. But no, there's no conspiracy out there. I think this Minnesota team's interesting, Albert. I've said it. I don't think they're going to win it all anymore. I think the league, this is a piggyback and extension of what you and I discussed the other day. The league is evolving, right? You're getting more 3-and-D athleticism. You're getting track and field athletes, like I like to say, not just basketball players who are tall or whatever. You're getting like athletic studs. And I think that's the kryptonite to the Lynx. Their system's awesome. Well, first of all, Nafisa Collier's awesome. Okay. She's fantastic. One of the best players. But the rest of the team's like good. Some of them are better than good, like McBuckets and Courtney Williams, but they're not like dominant players, right? So it's a system, very well coached, but the lack of athleticism, I think, is going to ultimately cost them a chance at the title. The league's just too good. And they're going to go on runs, and maybe I'm going to eat my words, but as good as Minnesota is, and they are good, I just don't know if they're going to win it all because I just think there's so many studs here in the league, and that concerns me for a Lynx team that, plays with their food a little too much and stuff. So I'm inclined to bet the Sky, but it's a spot where I think the Lynx could blow them out.
I like the over in this game. Keep it short and simple. I think Chicago's offense, and Doug kind of tipped me to this about a week and a half, 2 weeks ago. Like they've turned a corner when it comes to their offense. They're allowing Angel Reese to play from the high post a lot more. They're running the offense through her, which is great because she's such a magnetizing, force on offense. And so I like the over because we know the Lynx are going to shoot the threes there. So we're going to get the opportunities just from Minnesota. This is more of a Chicago cap. I just think Chicago's offense they're not humming by any means, but in the half court, they're definitely playing a lot tighter and they're running sets that are pretty good. And I think Doug hit it with Minnesota's lack of athleticism. I think that's going to help Chicago as well get on a transition and get some easy buckets. And one thing about Angel Reese and free throws that surprised me in the last week or so, she's making them. Like, I know she's a good free throw shooter, but she's been put in some pretty clutch situations where it was like they were down 1, or it was a tied ball game with 10 seconds. She goes 2 for 2 at the line. Like those are really important late second free throws that can push a total to go over. And so I like it. We have two, good free throw shooting teams, and I'm not worried about that as the game ends.
I like that play. You're going to make an official play? I will too.
Official, yes, over 161.
All right, good stuff. Yeah, no, I'm a fan of that as well. I've been kind of riding the Sky offense for a little bit now. They somehow stayed under against the Wings, that thanks to a 33-point fourth quarter, but there were no foul calls in the first half. Third quarter, there were some whistles, but I'm shocked that game did not go over. I think we're going to see the Lynx. To your point, they shot poorly last Sunday against the Sky. I just think they were on tired legs. They're going to be crisp, and they just gave up a bunch to the Sparks. That I think their total landed in the 180s. Excuse me, 163. But sorry, no, I was right in the 180s with Minnesota. That was the Sky's last game. So this was 173 in their last game with the Sparks. I think we see a similar result here. The other game tomorrow. It's interesting. Aces back home after that long road trip. They're only 2-point favorites to the Golden State Valkyries, who are the biggest surprise in the W. Former Aces assistant Natalie Nakase is the head coach of Golden State. She's been fantastic this year. Asia Wilson missed the last game for Las Vegas, which was last night. They barely lost. They blew a double-digit lead in the fourth quarter, and the Mystics came all the way back. Jackie Young missed 2 bunnies to force overtime. And I'm assuming Asia does not play here. Valkyries are better coached. They play harder. Yeah, they're better coached. I think she's a better coach than Becky Hammond. And for anybody wondering, Nakase was also an assistant with the Clippers, so she has similar career trajectory with Becky Hammond. Yeah, she's the first to kind of break the barriers, but there's others because of her. And Nakase's elite. So I think the Valkyries are like good. They're not a great team, but they're legit good. Aces are not. I think let me put it this way. The Liberty are 1 in, I want to say 9 ATS in their last 10 games. The only ones they covered against that they did not cover was the Aces. Like the Aces are trash too, so I like the Valkyries here.
I wouldn't say the Aces are a trash team. They're just not as good as we all expected, right? We expected, the super team to, compete for another title. But I agree with Doug. I'm no longer going to be disrespecting Golden State on this show. I think they're a legitimate team that plays legitimate defense. And if Vegas is without Asia Wilson, who's by far their best player, like I know the Aces have all these names, but they're basically a shell of what they used to be. I like Golden State here, right? I also agree with Doug here. The line is telling me that Asia Wilson isn't playing. I bet this is going to be closer to -1 or even a pick 'em by game time, because I think more people are more sharp bettors are going to be on the road dog in this one, just because Golden State is a more versatile team. At this point, they're hungrier, right? Because they're going into the season like with no expectations, and now that they've already surpassed it, they see the playoffs potentially in their sight, and so they're not going to overlook games like this. Whereas the Aces, their mindset right now is pure disappointment, right? We're under 500. We should be competing for the title. I'm not going to give up on the year, but this is going to be hard, and I don't think they have the horses to contend without Asia. And so I like Golden State in this game, and once we get confirmation that Asia is out, Doug, I'm going to make an official play for sure.
Okay, so let me ask you this. Valkyries are really good in the dog roll, but they're way better at home.
Yep.
I think they're about 500 as a dog on the road. Are you a little uneasy with this? I mean, it's an unusual spot. Like you said, Aces without Wilson, things like that. Are you uneasy about this at all?
Not too much. I think you mentioned it. Like they have a great coach who was in Vegas, right, for a couple of years. So she's gonna know. She's gonna help get that team. Get them to be prepared and see what they expect to be playing in Vegas. I just think that the hungrier team by far is the dog here in Golden State, and I'm always going to be backing the team that I know that wants to win these games. Whereas the Aces, again, I don't think they're giving up on the season, because Asia might come back and they might go on a run. But until I see that spark again, and Becky Hammond isn't a bad coach, but it seems like she's lost that team. Like even watching her on the sidelines, she's just standing there sometimes and not saying a word, and no one's really interacting with her. So I don't know, the vibes don't seem very good in for the Aces, and so I'm just gonna not back that team anymore. I'm going to focus on Golden State and some of these younger, hungrier teams, and the Valkyries are definitely one of those.
Yeah, and Valkyries are like elite against the spread in the first half. They're just so much better. They jump on you. I also say it's an old Dave Malinsky special, a longtime professional bettor in Vegas who passed almost a decade ago, but one of his angles was just fading the team at home, first game home after a long road trip.
True.
And so that's what the aces, the spot, the situational spot there on the aces. So I'll do that as well. So I have 3 WNBA plays: Valkyries +2 at the aces, Lynx Sky over 161, and I'm also going to play the Sun tonight, first quarter +6 -124. What official plays do you have in addition to that over in the Lynx Sky game?
Yeah, so I do like the Lynx Sky over. I do like Seattle team total over 87.5. And then two
That's right.
teams that I'm going to be focused on in the summer league are the Pistons and maybe the Wizards still, even though the line has moved against me. But those two teams, if I can get a better number or a closer number at halftime, that's 2 games that I've penciled in.
All right. Yep. And then for summer league, I'm also laying the 5.5 with the Grizzlies against the Jazz. I guess the Celtics. Sorry, Grizzlies against the Celtics. I guess Grizzlies technically the road team, but obviously that game in Las Vegas, and that's top of the hour. So a lot of television games in the summer league with ESPN, NBA TV, things like that. So maybe some higher handle, but good basketball. Do your scouting, get a feel for these, but also track the beat writers on social media. There will be no rhyme or reason some guy doesn't play or a couple guys don't play, maybe even an injury or two as well. So that's all part of the equation. We mentioned the other tennis platform, shows on the platform. Really good stuff. The Weekend and the grass court. Albert, I know you're a big tennis bettor. You've been talking about Sinner, and the last time you and I were together, do you still like his chances?
Yeah, so Sinner Alcaraz in the final. I think Alcaraz is favored right now, -125, -130. I think that's fair. I think that makes a lot of sense. Alcaraz does own this matchup, head to head. He also owns the grass court, but I still feel like this is Sinner's time. And I'm gonna be taking the plus money, but I think it's +105 on Yannick Sinner to win. But props to Nigel. He was able to pick out Anisimova to make the finals. I think that was like 65-1. It's a great call. So I think he can kind of get out of it because I think Swiatek is gonna take care of business tomorrow.
Wow. That is really impressive. 65-1. We need more of those. So yeah, Nigel and the crew, they know what they're doing. And I keep pushing it, keep telling everyone, just go check out the podcast if you haven't already. They've done a wonderful job. Like I said, they're the reason Bet Rivers Network and Betting Weekly Umbrella is over 10,000 subscribers. Let's keep it moving. Let's hope to have a successful weekend on the hardwood here as Betting Weekly Fast Break. Our next show will be Monday, 3 p.m. Eastern, noon Pacific. Obviously, the baseball All-Star break will be kicking in, so we'll have some dark days for Betting Weekly Hardball. Just stay tuned. That's why you should like and subscribe to shows. You'll get alerts of when we are on. We also alert you via social media. But, good to check in 2 p.m. and 3 p.m. Eastern weekdays because they'll also have the show on the YouTube platform about our next show. So good stuff as always, my man. Albert, good to be with you. You have yourself a great weekend. Thanks to everyone behind the scenes as well who does an awesome job making everybody look good and all the graphics clean. They do the heavy lifting. We wish you all good luck this weekend, and we'll see you back here for Betting Weekly Fast Break Monday, 3 p.m. Eastern. Have a great weekend.